The arena stretched across miles, a vast structure that glimmered under the light of 3 suns. It was the largest combat ground in the galaxy, where the strongest warriors from countless planets came to compete. From high above, floating platforms held spectators who cheered and shouted, their voices echoing across the endless halls. Lyra, the alien champion, stood in the center of the arena, her chest rising and falling as she caught her breath. Her sleek, shimmering armor reflected the sunlight, and the crowd's chants washed over her like a wave. Lyra had fought many battles, each one harder than the last, but none had been as thrilling as today's match. Her last opponent, a towering brute from the planet Kael'thar, had fallen under her precise strikes. Every movement, every feint, every swing of her blade had been calculated, honed over years of training. And now, as she lifted her weapon high above her head, the crowd erupted. She raised her arms in triumph, letting herself enjoy the moment. For Lyra, this was more than victory. It was proof that she was the greatest fighter of her generation. Other warriors could train, could practice, could fight with strength and skill, but none could match her combination of speed, intelligence, and instinct. Her species valued honor, strategy, and control, and she had mastered all 3. The roar of approval from the audience filled her with pride. The announcer's voice boomed across the arena. "Behold Lyra of Virel Prime, champion of the Galactic Combat Games. Her skill unmatched, her victories legendary." Lyra turned to the audience, bowing slightly, her eyes sparkling with triumph. The cheers grew louder, chanting her name in languages she barely recognized. She allowed herself a small smile, letting the moment linger. She had worked for this her entire life, training in harsh environments, mastering weapons, and learning the art of combat from her elders. Today, all that effort had paid off. Suddenly, a hush fell over the crowd. The cheering dimmed to whispers, and the energy in the arena shifted. Lyra felt it immediately, a change in the atmosphere that made her instincts tingle. She glanced toward the far gate of the arena, the place where the next competitor would enter. Through the gate stepped a figure unlike any she had seen before. It was a human, small and unarmored, holding only a simple spear. His hair was dark and plain, and his eyes were calm but intense, focused straight on Lyra. For a moment, the crowd went silent. The whispers spread like wildfire. "Is that a human? They said humans were extinct. Is he really going to fight her?" Lyra's confidence wavered for the first time that day. Humans were a rare species in this part of the galaxy. Most aliens considered them weak, fragile, and unworthy of standing in the arena. She had trained her whole life expecting to face powerful alien warriors, some nearly double her size. She had not imagined facing one of the smallest and least armored beings she had ever seen. The human walked forward slowly, each step deliberate and calm. He did not carry fancy weapons or wear shining armor. He carried only himself. His presence alone commanded attention. Lyra could see the curiosity and disbelief in the faces of the spectators, and a tiny seed of doubt planted itself in her mind. The announcer's voice trembled slightly, betraying his surprise. "Ladies and gentlemen, and beings of all kinds, entering the arena, from the planet Earth, a human, Ethan." Ethan raised his chin, unafraid of the thousands of eyes watching him. He did not shout, did not boast, and did not make any dramatic movements. He simply stood calm and ready. To Lyra, that quiet confidence was strange and unsettling. Aliens usually fought to impress, to dominate, to display power. Humans seemed different. Lyra tightened her grip on her weapon, her muscles tensed, ready for the duel. She needed to assess him, to understand what she was facing. In the past, she had studied her opponents carefully, noting weaknesses, predicting moves, and exploiting every flaw. She had never had to face a human, and she had never had to doubt her own strength so deeply. The crowd murmured. Some laughed, unable to hide their amusement at the small human daring to face the mighty Lyra. Others watched in silence, curiosity overcoming skepticism. The arena's giant screen zoomed in on Ethan, showing the calm expression on his face, the way he held his spear lightly but firmly. Some whispered about human history, their resilience, their ability to survive harsh conditions and adapt to unexpected challenges. Few had ever witnessed a human in combat outside their home planet, and now they were about to see it firsthand. Lyra took a deep breath, centering herself. She reminded herself that size and armor did not guarantee victory. Strength was only part of the equation. Speed, strategy, and precision counted for more. Still, she could not shake the feeling that this human was unlike anything she had faced before. As the arena shifted to prepare for the match, the floor itself reacting to the combatants, Lyra stepped forward. Her eyes never left Ethan's. She noticed the way he moved, the small adjustments he made as if he was already analyzing her, anticipating her next move. He was calm, unafraid, and unhurried. "Are you ready?" she called, her voice steady but with a note of curiosity. Ethan nodded slightly. No words, no arrogance. Just readiness. The crowd held its collective breath. Lyra could hear her own heartbeat, steady and strong, and for a moment she allowed herself to wonder what she was about to face. She had won every battle she had fought. She had been celebrated across galaxies, and yet facing this human she felt something she had never felt before. Uncertainty. The announcer's voice broke the silence. "The duel begins!" The arena erupted into motion. Platforms shifted, walls rose, and traps activated in a dazzling display of technology and design. Lyra lunged forward, her weapon flashing in the sunlight. Ethan moved with surprising agility, sidestepping with a grace that made her pause. He used his spear not for brute force but to redirect her attacks to control the pace of the fight. The spectators were stunned. The human's movements were unlike anything they had ever seen. He was not strong in the traditional sense, but he was clever, resourceful, and adaptive. Lyra realized even in the first few moments that defeating him would require more than her usual skill. As they circled each other, the crowd whispered and gasped with each parry and dodge. Lyra's confidence had not disappeared entirely, but she now knew this match would test her in ways she had never imagined. This human was not what she expected. He was a challenge, a puzzle, and perhaps a lesson she did not yet understand. And in that moment, Lyra felt a spark of excitement. This duel, unlike any other she had fought, might not only prove her strength but reveal the unexpected power of humanity. The arena went silent again, anticipation hanging in the air. All eyes were on the champion and the human, ready to witness the first clash that would decide whether legends were truly universal, or whether the underestimated human could change the rules of the galaxy forever. The arena's floor shimmered and shifted, responding to the presence of its two combatants. High-tech panels raised and lowered, platforms rotated, and walls moved unpredictably. Lyra flexed her fingers around her weapon, her eyes narrowing as she studied the human across from her. Ethan, the human, stood calmly, his spear resting lightly in his hands. His posture was simple, unassuming, yet there was a confidence in his stance that made Lyra pause. The audience remained silent, still trying to comprehend what they were witnessing. Some aliens whispered among themselves, others exchanged incredulous glances. Humans they thought were delicate and fragile, suited only for peaceful tasks, not for combat against the galaxy's fiercest warriors. And yet, here one was, standing without fear before the undefeated champion, Lyra herself. Ethan took a single step forward. The ground beneath him adjusted to his weight without any visible effort. He surveyed the arena, noticing the spikes, the shifting walls, the hidden traps. Every detail caught his attention. Unlike Lyra, he didn't rush forward. Instead, he moved with care, calculating the terrain and anticipating how it might be used against him, or for him. Lyra felt a flicker of unease. Humans, she realized, were unpredictable. They didn't rely solely on strength or speed. They observed, adapted, and often used clever solutions to overcome challenges. This human could be dangerous not because of raw power, but because he might think in ways she could not anticipate. The announcer's voice boomed through the arena. "Warriors, begin your combat!" Lyra lunged first, her movements a blur. Her weapon cut through the air with deadly precision, aimed to end the match quickly. Ethan reacted almost immediately, stepping to the side and using the momentum of her attack to guide her past him, rather than directly block it. The movement was fluid, effortless, and unexpected. The crowd gasped. Aliens in the stands whispered furiously. Some laughed at the fragile human, but many were beginning to notice that he was something more. Each time Lyra struck, he countered with creativity, redirecting her energy rather than resisting it head-on. His defense was not brute strength, it was intelligence in motion. Lyra's brow furrowed. She had never encountered an opponent like this. Her previous rivals had relied on overwhelming force, but Ethan relied on anticipation, reading her every move and responding in ways that no one had taught him. He had no flashy armor, no exotic weapon. Yet he was surviving, even thriving in the arena that had challenged the galaxy's best for decades. The arena itself seemed to recognize his ingenuity. Walls shifted to guide them, traps activated at unexpected moments, and the platforms tilted. Lyra attacked with speed and precision, expecting him to falter. But Ethan was not merely reacting, he was learning. With each new hazard he adapted, using the environment to his advantage, turning obstacles into tools, and every attack into an opportunity. For a brief moment, Lyra paused. She realized that this match was not going to be like any she had fought before. She had trained to defeat strength with skill, speed with strategy, and yet this human was teaching her something new. That true power could come from cleverness, calmness, and the ability to think differently under pressure. The spectators began to react. The whispers of disbelief grew louder. Some aliens who had laughed at the human's size and lack of armor now looked on with growing respect. Look at how he moves. He is not just surviving, he is controlling the fight. Another voice whispered, "This human, he may be small, but he is clever, very clever." Lyra's movements grew more cautious. She adjusted her attacks, watching him closely, analyzing each step. She began to notice patterns in his movements, not patterns of weakness, but patterns of intelligence. He would step aside just slightly, baiting her into overcommitting and then use her momentum against her. He seemed to anticipate danger before it even happened, as if he could see the future in the moment. Ethan, meanwhile, remained calm and focused. He was not impressed by Lyra's reputation, nor intimidated by her skills. He understood the stakes, the danger, and the unpredictability of the arena, but he faced them with a steady mind. He did not rush. He did not panic. Every movement had a purpose, every action a reason. Lyra swung her blade again, faster this time, aiming to catch him off guard. Ethan moved with an almost natural rhythm, dodging and twisting. He used his spear not as a weapon of attack, but as a tool to control distance, to balance himself, and to manipulate Lyra's strikes. Each time she attacked, he responded with precision, never wasting a movement, never showing fear. The spectators were no longer silent. Gasps, cheers, and murmurs filled the arena. Many aliens had begun to underestimate humans for centuries, thinking them weak and fragile. Ethan was proving them wrong with every step. He was small but adaptable. He was unarmored but clever. And he was alive in a way that no one expected. Lyra felt a strange mix of frustration and admiration. Frustration because she could not overpower him as she had done with others, and admiration because she could see his mind at work. Humans, she realized, were not simply weaker versions of alien species. They were uniquely capable, resourceful, and unpredictable. They were the wild card of the galaxy. The fight continued. Lyra attacked with her full strength, using every trick she knew. She feinted, dodged, and struck with speed and precision. Ethan responded with calm agility, turning each of her moves into a challenge she could not easily predict. He used the arena to his advantage, leaping off moving platforms, using walls to change direction, and turning traps meant for him into tools against her. The spectators watched in awe. Many had never seen combat like this. The human was not the strongest, not the fastest, but he was surviving where others would have fallen. He was proving that strength alone did not define a warrior. Adaptability, intelligence, and courage were equally powerful. Lyra realized that this match was more than a test of physical skill. It was a battle of minds. Ethan was not only surviving, he was teaching her something she had never considered. His calm determination, his cleverness, and his fearlessness challenged every assumption she had about strength and power. As the duel went on, the crowd's energy shifted. They were no longer cheering only for Lyra. They were watching Ethan, fascinated by his courage and skill. Some whispered about human history, about their ability to survive harsh planets, adapt to extreme conditions, and overcome impossible odds. The legend of the human warrior was growing in real time before their eyes. Lyra paused for a moment, taking a deep breath. She realized that this match was not just about defeating a human. It was about understanding the qualities that made humans different, unique, and capable. She had always thought strength and speed defined victory, but now she saw that courage, intelligence, and adaptability were just as important. The arena shifted again, introducing new hazards, rising platforms, swinging obstacles, and sudden changes in gravity. Lyra attacked with renewed energy, pushing herself to the limit. Ethan adjusted effortlessly, predicting her moves, using the environment and responding with calm efficiency. Each maneuver, each dodge, each counterattack demonstrated not only skill but intelligence beyond the usual limits of combat. The audience erupted into cheers. Aliens who had doubted humans began to whisper in admiration. "He is incredible," one said. "I never thought a human could survive this." Lyra herself could not help but feel respect. She had faced countless opponents, some stronger, some faster, some more skilled, but none had made her reconsider her own assumptions like this human. Ethan was small, yes, and unarmored, yes, but he was clever, resourceful, and unafraid. The duel had changed. What began as a test of strength had evolved into a battle of minds, endurance, and willpower. Lyra realized that the human's reputation, though unknown to most, was well earned. Humans, though underestimated, were capable of incredible feats when pushed to their limits. And for the first time in her life, Lyra felt a thrill she had never felt before. Not from victory, but from challenge. She had met someone who could match her, not in brute strength but in spirit, intelligence, and courage. The arena went silent once more, tension hanging in the air. Every spectator waited for the next move. Lyra and Ethan faced each other, breathing heavily, eyes locked. The duel had only just begun, but the respect between them was clear. This was not just a battle. It was a moment that would be remembered across the galaxy. The moment a human showed that strength could take many forms. The arena had transformed into a labyrinth of danger. Platforms shifted underfoot, walls rose and fell unpredictably, and traps activated without warning. Sparks flew as energy barriers hummed across the battlefield, forcing both combatants to adjust constantly. Lyra moved like a storm of precision and strength, her armor gleaming with every strike, while Ethan advanced calmly, his spear held lightly, yet ready. The crowd was on the edge of their seats. Aliens from countless worlds leaned forward, unable to tear their eyes away from the duel. Many had laughed when the human first stepped into the arena, mocking his small frame and lack of protection. Now they watched in awe, witnessing him survive, adapt, and even turn the dangers of the arena to his advantage. Lyra lunged, aiming a swift and powerful strike at his midsection. She expected him to falter under her strength, but Ethan pivoted with remarkable agility. He used the tip of his spear to lightly tap her blade, redirecting her momentum. Lyra stumbled for just a moment, enough for Ethan to take advantage. He lunged forward, not with raw power but with precise timing, forcing her to step back. The audience gasped. For every powerful strike Lyra delivered, Ethan responded with clever defense or rapid adaptation. He moved not as someone relying on strength, but as someone who had mastered observation and anticipation. Every motion was deliberate, calculated, and effective. Lyra's frustration grew, but so did her respect. She had faced many strong opponents before, but never someone who could read her moves so quickly, anticipate her strikes, and counter them with such elegance. She realized that human combat was not about overwhelming force. It was about mind, spirit, and adaptability. Ethan spotted a moving platform above him. Without hesitation, he leapt, using the momentum to propel himself across the arena. Lyra followed immediately, her instincts honed by years of training. Yet as she struck, Ethan shifted mid-air, using her own speed against her. The two collided briefly, weapons clashing, and Lyra realized something extraordinary. The human had learned her fighting style within moments of engagement. The crowd erupted with excitement. Aliens who had dismissed him now whispered in awe. He is not just surviving. He is learning. He adapts faster than any warrior I have ever seen. Some of Lyra's fellow champions clenched their fists, shocked at the display. Humans were underestimated for centuries, yet this one moved with a combination of skill, intelligence, and calm determination that even the strongest aliens could barely comprehend. Lyra's breathing grew heavier. Her attacks became faster, more precise, more powerful, yet Ethan met them with ingenuity. He used the arena's shifting platforms as leverage, bounced off walls and avoided traps while simultaneously turning them into advantages. Every moment he survived was a lesson in adaptability and creativity. Lyra realized that she was not just fighting an opponent, she was learning. Every dodge, every pivot, every subtle counter was a message from the human, showing her the unique power of his species. They were small, yes, and lacking heavy armor, But humans had something other warriors did not: ingenuity, courage, and the ability to think differently under pressure. The arena's environment grew more dangerous. Spikes shot from the walls, platforms rotated at sharp angles, and energy barriers cut across the battlefield. Lyra's instinct screamed to strike quickly and decisively, yet Ethan moved with calm precision. He ducked under a barrier, rolled past a swinging spike, and used a moving platform to launch himself toward her. Each movement was a testament to his resourcefulness. Lyra realized that brute force alone would not win this battle. She had to think, adapt, and anticipate like he did. With a sudden change in strategy, she began feinting, creating openings, and testing his responses. Ethan responded almost instinctively, adjusting without hesitation. Their fight became a dance of intelligence, skill, and adaptability. The crowd was captivated. The duel had transformed from a test of strength into a showcase of strategy and wit. Aliens who had once believed humans were weak now whispered with amazement. Some even began to cheer for Ethan, acknowledging that strength could come in unexpected forms. Lyra, despite herself, felt respect for him growing. He had no flashy weapons, no exotic armor, yet he moved with confidence, precision, and cleverness that rivaled her own. Every strike she threw, every strategy she attempted, he countered in a way that challenged not just her skill but her understanding of combat itself. As the battle continued, the arena introduced a new challenge. A sudden quake shook the ground, opening fissures that threatened to swallow anything that fell. Lyra leapt over the gaps, striking swiftly, but Ethan anticipated the motion. With a nimble roll, he avoided her attack, used the fissure to vault himself toward a higher platform, and readied his spear for the next move. Lyra landed behind him, attempting a surprise strike. Ethan turned mid-air, deflecting her attack with the shaft of his spear. They collided for a brief moment, close enough that Lyra could see the calm determination in his eyes. He was not afraid. He was not overwhelmed, and in that instant she realized that humans possessed a strength she had never measured before, not in muscle or weapon skill, but in spirit. The crowd's excitement reached a fever pitch. Aliens cheered and gasped at each maneuver, witnessing the clash of two very different types of warriors. Lyra and Ethan were not only fighting, they were teaching the galaxy something profound about strength, adaptability, and courage. Lyra's muscles ached, and sweat glistened across her skin. She had pushed herself harder than ever before, yet Ethan remained light on his feet, moving with energy that seemed endless. He was not just surviving, he was controlling the pace of the fight, turning her attacks into lessons and proving the underestimated power of his species. The champion found herself analyzing him in ways she had never analyzed any opponent. She began to notice patterns in his movement, subtle, clever ways to avoid danger, anticipate threats, and exploit openings. It was as if every action was both defensive and strategic at once. Humans, she realized, were masters of adaptation. They could survive, thrive, and even excel in situations where others would fail. Ethan adjusted again, spotting an energy barrier rising between them. Instead of attempting to jump over it recklessly, he used it as a pivot, spinning and striking Lyra's weapon to redirect her momentum. She staggered slightly, surprised by the ingenuity of his counter. For the first time, she felt a thrill not from dominance but from challenge. Lyra smiled faintly, her respect growing with every exchange. The fight was no longer just about victory. It was about understanding, about discovering the hidden strengths of a species she had underestimated. Humans, small and seemingly fragile, were capable of brilliance, courage, and creativity that could rival the greatest warriors in the galaxy. The audience was on its feet, cheers blending with gasps, witnessing a duel that transcended the ordinary. Aliens whispered to one another, realization dawning across the crowd. Humans, long dismissed, could indeed be formidable. The quiet, clever, and fearless human before them was proof. Lyra and Ethan circled each other once more. Her eyes narrowed and she adjusted her stance. He did the same, spear ready, calm, and unflinching. The arena had thrown everything at them, obstacles, traps, and shifting terrain. But they had adapted, survived, and turned the battle into something extraordinary. Lyra's mind raced. She had always thought she understood the limits of power, skill, and strategy. Yet this human had shown her a new dimension of combat, the power of ingenuity, calmness, and adaptability. She realized that strength alone did not guarantee victory. Sometimes the clever, the resourceful, and the brave could match or surpass those who relied on raw power. Ethan stood silently, his breathing steady, his gaze unwavering. He was not arrogant. He was not reckless. He was patient, observant, and confident in his own abilities. And in that patience, Lyra recognized the true strength of humanity. The duel continued, each move more intense than the last. Lyra attacked with a combination of speed, precision, and force. Ethan met every strike with strategy, turning her energy into opportunity, using the arena itself as a weapon. Their battle had become a perfect balance of skill and intellect, a demonstration of two species learning from one another in real time. For the first time, Lyra experienced the thrill of fighting someone who was not just strong, but equally clever, equally determined, and equally fearless. She felt exhilaration, admiration, and a growing respect for the human standing before her. And in the silence between attacks, when the crowd held its breath, she realized something profound. This was no ordinary human. This was a reminder that strength could take many forms and that sometimes the underestimated could achieve the extraordinary. The arena had grown even more chaotic. Platforms shifted unpredictably, energy barriers hummed and sparked, and traps activated at random intervals. The spectators leaned forward, holding their collective breath. Both Lyra and Ethan were visibly exhausted, sweat glistening on their skin, muscles tense, hearts pounding, but neither had shown any sign of surrender. Lyra's eyes narrowed as she analyzed her opponent one last time. The human's calm, focused expression never wavered. Ethan had faced every hazard, every surprise, every attack with patience and intelligence. It was clear to her now. This was not a fighter who relied on strength or size, but on skill, adaptability, and the unwavering confidence that came from understanding himself and his limits. She raised her weapon for one final strike. Her blade moved faster than most could see, a deadly arc aimed to end the duel. The spectators gasped in anticipation. For a moment, time seemed to slow. Ethan's eyes tracked her movements, his muscles coiled, ready to respond. But instead of trying to block with brute force, Ethan made a split-second calculation. He sidestepped perfectly, using the momentum of her attack to guide her forward, and in the same motion pivoted, redirecting her energy and keeping himself in balance. Lyra stumbled slightly, surprised at the precision of his response. It was the first time she had been truly unbalanced in the fight. The audience erupted into cheers. Whispers of disbelief turned into shouts of admiration. "He did it again! Look at that human. He's incredible!" Aliens who had doubted humanity's strength were now on their feet, witnessing a display that would be remembered for generations. Lyra's mind raced. She realized that victory in this match would not come from overwhelming power. It would come from understanding, from creativity, from adapting faster than the opponent. She had faced great warriors before, but never someone who challenged her assumptions so completely. Humans were different, not weaker, not fragile, but unpredictable, clever, and courageous. Ethan didn't smile. He didn't boast. He simply stood ready, observing Lyra's next move with calm intensity. His posture and his expression spoke volumes. He respected her, and yet he had no fear. He trusted in his own skills, in his adaptability, and in his ability to respond to whatever challenge the arena presented. Lyra adjusted her strategy. She could no longer rely solely on speed and strength. She had to think, to anticipate, to outwit the human. She feinted to the left, then struck to the right, creating openings that would have been deadly to any ordinary opponent. But Ethan was not ordinary. He moved with precision, predicting her motions almost instinctively. The duel became a dance of intelligence and skill. Lyra attacked, Ethan countered, and the arena itself became part of their battle. Moving platforms, shifting walls, and hidden traps were no longer merely obstacles. They were tools that both combatants used in creative ways. Every movement was a statement, every strike a lesson, and every dodge a demonstration of adaptability. As the fight continued, Lyra felt something she had never felt before. She was not merely trying to win, she was learning. Ethan's style, his strategy, and his calm determination were teaching her about the unique strength of humans. She had always believed that power and skill defined a warrior. Now she saw that courage, intelligence, and adaptability could be equally, if not more, decisive. Ethan's movements were precise but graceful. He used the arena's hazards to his advantage, turning potential threats into opportunities. A swinging spike became a lever, a rising platform became a launching point, and a falling barrier became a shield. He anticipated Lyra's attacks, redirected her energy, and maintained control over the battle with an ingenuity that amazed everyone watching. Lyra's respect for him grew with every exchange. He was small, yes, and unarmored, yes, but he was fearless and brilliant. Every move he made was a testament to the hidden potential of his species, a reminder that humans could thrive in situations where others might fail. The arena shifted again, introducing one final obstacle. A massive energy wall rose, cutting off part of the battlefield and forcing both combatants into a narrow corridor. Lyra moved first, attacking with everything she had left. Ethan sidestepped, pivoted, and used his spear to redirect her momentum once more. They collided briefly, weapons clashing, eyes locking, and for a moment time seemed to stand still. Lyra's chest heaved with exertion. She realized something profound. This human was not simply a fighter. He was a symbol of humanity's courage, intelligence, and adaptability. He had faced a champion of the galaxy, survived, and forced her to see the world in a new way. Strength was not the only measure of power. The mind, the spirit, and the courage to face the impossible were just as important. The crowd erupted into a thunderous cheer. Aliens stood, clapping and shouting, witnessing the extraordinary display. Even some of Lyra's fellow champions whispered in awe. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, and now one human had proven that courage, cleverness, and determination could match or surpass the greatest warriors in the galaxy. Lyra lowered her weapon slowly. She was exhausted, but she was exhilarated. She took a deep breath, feeling respect for Ethan swelling in her chest. She had faced many opponents, defeated countless warriors, and achieved legendary victories. But this match had taught her something she had never known. There was more to strength than she had ever realized. Ethan did not move forward or attack. He stood calmly, ready for her next strike, yet confident that the fight had already shown its lesson. His eyes met hers, and in that silent exchange Lyra understood. Victory was not just about defeating the opponent. It was about courage, creativity, and the will to face the impossible without fear. The audience could barely contain their excitement. Cheers echoed across the arena, chants of Ethan's name blending with Lyra's. Aliens who had doubted humans whispered among themselves, realization dawning. Strength came in many forms, and humans had their own kind of extraordinary power. Lyra stepped forward slowly, lowering her weapon completely. "You have taught me something today," she said, her voice steady but filled with admiration. "Strength is not only in power or skill. It is in courage, adaptability, and the heart to face the impossible. You have shown me that humans are not to be underestimated." Ethan nodded, calm and humble. He did not boast, did not celebrate. He had faced the champion with intelligence and courage, and he had proven the unique strength of humanity. His actions had spoken louder than words, showing that determination, cleverness, and resourcefulness could overcome even the most legendary of warriors. The crowd erupted into another cheer, louder than before. Aliens clapped, cheered, and even shouted their respect for the human who had dared to challenge the champion. Whispers spread across the arena. Humans. Perhaps they are stronger than we ever believed. They think differently. They survive in ways we cannot imagine. Perhaps we should never underestimate them again. Lyra extended her hand toward Ethan. A silent acknowledgement passed between them. A gesture of respect rather than rivalry. She had faced the ultimate test, and in doing so, had discovered the hidden potential of a species she had never understood. Humans, she realized, were clever, courageous, and adaptable. They could thrive in impossible situations, overcome odds, and redefine what it meant to be strong. Ethan took her hand, shaking it firmly but respectfully. The audience erupted once more. This moment, the champion acknowledging the human strength, would be remembered across galaxies. It was a moment of recognition, of respect, and of a new understanding between species. Lyra and Ethan stood side by side, the arena lights reflecting off their bodies, highlighting the bond formed through battle. The crowd's cheers continued, but the message was clear. Humans had earned their place among the galaxy's strongest, not through brute force but through intelligence, courage, and unwavering determination. As they walked out of the arena together, the whispers of admiration followed them. Aliens discussed what they had seen, realizing that strength was not only in size or weapons but in the mind, spirit, and heart. Lyra had learned the true lesson. Sometimes the underestimated could achieve the extraordinary. And humans, small and unassuming as they might appear, were living proof. The arena's gates closed behind them and the cheers echoed across the city, spreading the story of a human who had faced the champion and shown the galaxy that greatness could come in many forms. Lyra had fought many battles, but none had left her with such awe, such respect, and such a new understanding of the universe. And for Ethan, the human, it was not about victory or fame. It was about showing that courage, intelligence, and adaptability could change the way the galaxy saw his species. In a universe that had doubted humans for centuries, he had proven that strength could take many forms, and that even the smallest, most underestimated beings could rise to greatness. The arena went silent for a moment as both warriors looked at each other, exhausted but unbroken. Then as one they raised their hands in mutual respect. The galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary, and a new legend had been born. That humans, though small and unassuming, possessed a power that no one could ignore.